Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of DarazCast. Today, we have with us AbdulSattar Zahid, one of the senior product managers at Daraz, who focuses mainly on the growth objectives of the company pertaining to acquisition and retention. We're very pleased to have him here today with us, and without any further delay, introducing to you our guest for today, Sattar. Thank you so much for being with us here today, and we hope that this conversation is going to be super insightful for our LinkedIn audience.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be on this forum, to be talking about our everyday life and helping sort of have a conversation with our LinkedIn people. Hopefully, we can teach them something. Hopefully, get some nice insights from them. So yeah, super excited to be part of this initiative.
Yes, of course. Sattar, why don't we start about your journey at Daraz? When did you start? How has it been so far? How has your experience been with Daraz?
Yeah, so I started off with Daraz about 3 years ago. We have this, Daraz is a very successful management trainee program which we associate with Daraz Future Leadership Program, or the DFLP, as you might have seen a lot on LinkedIn. So I was very fortunate to be a part of that program and joined Daraz right after completing my graduation. So since then, I've been a part of Daraz, and the last 3 years have honestly been a wonderful journey where we have taken on challenges after challenges. The company in itself has evolved from a small workforce to one of the largest organizations that we have in our markets, from aspiring to be leaders to really becoming market leaders. So the company has evolved, the workforce has evolved, the kind of work that we do have evolved, and throughout that last 3 years, we've just taken on new challenges. So now today, what my team and I primarily focus on is the growth domain, where our primary objectives are around how can we meet our user acquisition goals, how do we ensure that they have a good healthy retention going on, how do we extract a healthy customer base out of them, and then to make sure that that customer base chooses to stick with us. From a product perspective, it's really about deep diving in a lot of information that our users provide to us, understanding different trends, different mechanics, and devising product and tech solutions, both from an operations perspective that allow our internal team to do these actions. So from advertising on different platforms, to communications through notifications or emails, to different growth engines that exist on the platform, they're able to do them better. And from a user perspective, we're able to give them more value and more reason to visit the app, and hence fostering our goals. So overall, that's what our team at the product department focuses on.
Yeah, and I think product is one of the key functions for especially for tech companies, and it is a core pillar for the growth of the organizations as well. But when we talk about product specifically, who are the main stakeholders that you deal with internally? Who do you work with? What does the process look like?
So I think I completely agree with you when you say product is quite fundamental. So ultimately what we realize is that the app is what we are selling, right? It's not all the services. It's a platform is what we're known for. What's our USP? What distinguishes from perhaps any other services or offerings in the market? So obviously sustaining that and improving that is a critical part to success. Now, with regards to our day-to-day, so our day-to-day is obviously comprised of a lot of stakeholders. So in a nutshell, we have each sort of domain. So from a growth perspective, we have so each domain has its respective counterparts on the operation side, right? For the growth domain, they sort of comprise of our marketing teams responsible for advertising, our CRM team responsible for managing all the notifications, and our different growth engine teams that sort of take responsibility for managing the different activities that we are doing on site. Then from an operations, so moving on from there, we have engineering or technical teams who are responsible for developing. Then we have our supporting, a lot of supporting teams from infrastructure who make sure that these products and these apps can sustain and can sort of function smoothly. We have our data team that provides us the key visibility into these and helps us guide decisions and take the next steps. Then there are obviously, so these are the sort of, I would say, direct ones. Then we also obviously have a huge number of indirect sort of stakeholders that we have to take care of, which range from your customer support to finance. So pretty much any product initiative has to make sure that the rest of the company is in sync with, because the processes get affected, our systems get affected. So you have to kind of make sure that, and this is, so as a product manager, which is why communication becomes a very essential part of our jobs, and it defines, it's the difference between how successful we are in what we are trying to do, because of the huge number of people and the stakeholders that we have, and making sure that everyone is on the same page, moving in the same tandem and has the same ideas. Especially this becomes even more difficult because a lot of stakeholders that we have, because of our parent company in foreign markets, with different cultures, with different communication styles, with and also obviously the lack of online, the lack of face-to-face interaction doesn't make this any easier. So yeah, a lot of stakeholders.
So this looks like a pretty complex structure, and for a fact we know that Daraz's entire product team is not based out of one location, one country, and it's spread throughout the region. And Alibaba also has a huge role to play in it. Can you tell us a little bit about how do you work with the teams spread out throughout the region, and how does Alibaba play a role in it?
So I think the overall, yes, I do agree. It's quite complex. The number of stakeholders and the geographic proximity of them make overall this a challenging function to manage. And I think what has facilitated it us and what has helped us grow is a constant evolution of how we do planning and how we manage our processes and how the team structure looks like. So let me start from sort of the last one, which is the structure. So initially, like when I joined the team back then, we just had product managers, and the product manager's job description entailed everything from understanding the problems that we have, then designing solutions out of them, then sort of coming up with, then managing the solution and executing it, then learning about it, iterating it, and supporting it on the stability. So everything was this. Then sort of sometimes last year, we sort of realized that this overall thing was becoming a bit too much, where certain things were, not being paid the right amount of attention. So the things that we really wanted our product managers to focus a lot on, which is the performance, understanding the problems, gaining key insights, and designing solutions, we were sort of, that was an area where we could have done better, we could have improved, right? And that's where our we made a change in the team structure, where we introduced our program managers who were then sort of dedicated to the execution and the delivery side of the projects, freeing up the product managers to do what the core essence of the job is. Then further on, we also realized that stability was a big part of our jobs. And issues, dealing with issues, facing them in a timely manner with following all the processes required a lot of bandwidth as well. So the third function that we ended up creating was product operations, what we call product specialists, who are responsible for all the operational management of a product, from configurations to stability to all the SOPs. So just making sure we are getting the optimal usage out of our products and also keeping them stable. So this sort of complex structure help us making sure that there's a certain level of specialization. So which is why when I said about growth, I said the team, right? Because it's not just product managers, it's all of the different functions comprised together that form one domain. And what happens is all of us are focused on one problem, such as the growth domain is focused on the growth problem, but then we're looking at different facets of the problem or different facets of the solution, right? And what that helps us is a much better quality in terms of execution, a much better quality in terms of our solution design, and a much better stability and everything. And overall, our product management has gone up a different notch. Talking about from a planning perspective, so that's where the Alibaba role in it. So obviously, considering our parent company and our technology stack is primarily shared by Alibaba Group, there is a big role that Alibaba plays in our product management, because a lot of the things that a lot of technical work that we want to do, we have to seek support from Alibaba. And the Alibaba Group also has a very forward-looking approach to this entire situation, because we're not the only overseas company, we're not the only one requesting these things. So they have kept a very complex structure where each team has the right level of support that they're able to get, and therefore we have dedicated personnel, we have dedicated processes, and we have a collaboration model between the parent company and the subsidiary that allows very smooth functioning and allows us to achieve our goals. And they also share our goals, so it's not just us requesting. So a lot of very thoughtful things have been put in place by our management and the Alibaba management that allows a very good collaboration model, and it keeps, and I think the standout thing is the constant evolving nature of it. As we learn about each other better, as we learn about what works better, as we learn about what's causing friction, every 6 months or so, there is an improvement that comes about, which helps us get even better. And I think that's the key why it just keeps, that's the key to sustainable success.
Yeah, I think that was a very, very detailed and an excellent explanation of what the product team does, and I think this would pretty much be what other tech companies also do. The structure would be similar in other companies as well.
I wouldn't say there's one approach to this. There are several approaches to this. So a lot of companies do this on a hierarchy level. So the senior guys sort of focus on management, the junior guys focus on the execution side of things. So different structures. But what we wanted to be able to do was create specialization, because if you're a junior who's focusing on the execution, and then you step into a senior role where you're now focusing on the strategy and the solution design, then there's obviously a skill gap in what you were doing right now and what you will be expected to do in a future role. And I think that was one of those ideas where we wanted to create this level of specialization and create separate growth paths for each of these functions. And there's also movement that's supported within this, so you can become one or the other, because at the end of the day it's all part of the same team. What the specialization does is that across all levels there's an incremental growth in the talent pool, in the quality of work that we do, maturity in how we do things, and that has become critical towards ensuring we just keep getting better and better.
And it has definitely worked for Daraz. We've seen some very great things come to life in the recent past only. So clearly, it's worked for us.
I mean, so it's not just what we are launching. It's also in terms of efficiency. So our efficiency, our a number of deliveries that we're making, the quality, how many of them are being successful. So the quality of those deliveries, everything has improved bit by bit. There's still obviously room to grow. I think as it's one of our values to continuously innovate. So what's good today can never be acceptable tomorrow, which is why we still recognize there's room to grow. But I think we've come a long way and improved a lot.
So moving on, I would really want you to tell us and our audience here today about the challenges you've faced as a product manager. What are the challenges you faced in Daraz, and then what are generally the challenges that are present in the industry overall?
So I think in a nutshell, if I have to sort of encapsulate everything, I would say the biggest is the lack of a competitive landscape in terms of competitive platforms. So yes, in terms of services, we're not the only ones offering them. In terms of the model, like we're not the only e-commerce players, but in terms of the scale of the competitive landscape, there's very little competition in all the 5 markets that we operate in, and that creates a very big challenge for us, and that sort of has different facets to it. So from a planning perspective, right, when we are sitting down and we're looking at, okay, how do we grow? What's our next step towards growth? How do we get better, right? There's a lack of a lot of case studies, a lot of success stories that we can see in our markets that, normally in other industries that can apply, oh, they're doing that, let's try that and let's see if it works for us, right? But in our case, there is no handbook or there's no case studies that are available to us from our markets. So, but that means is that a lot of our roadmap, especially pertaining to growth, has to do a lot with new chances that we have to take. We have a lot of new opportunities that we learn globally or in similar regions, or just based on new creative ideas. That a lot of them are new chances that we have to take and see what works and what doesn't work. So a lot of the roadmap that we focus on is on what we call in product sort of terminology is a 0 to 1 product, which is we just try out very basic things, see what works, and then only on build from there. So and we have to be creative in how we sort of execute this, right? Because we have to balance the amount of opportunities we sort of take a chance on versus our efficiency goals. So we have to be very creative and we have to come up with very new ways. So a lot of new chances that we want to take, we sort of try and execute them operationally or through some workarounds, etc., and seeing the viability or establish some proof of concepts before we move towards more mature solutions. So yeah, it would have definitely helped a lot if we had a more competitive landscape.
Yeah.
On a second level, what this also brings, a lack of competitive landscape brings a challenge of educating the entire industry. And this is not only from a user perspective, but across all facets of of our stakeholders. So from our users to our partners or sellers, and then our partners in other, like our digital partners, our banking partners, our logistics partners. And there's a huge challenge of educating them. So whenever we're trying to bring a new thing, and obviously because because of a lack of competitive landscape, we're usually the only ones to bring it, right? And that means a lot of customer education has to be done on how to utilize this, how to make this work, and that brings a lot of friction. And it takes a certain while, right? So we have to be patient with our new stuff because we understand that education is going to take a while, and then before we sort of, and it increases the sort of length of monitoring that we have to do. So yeah, then the same applies to our seller base. So any new thing that we have to, there's a lot of education that needs to go in, and then it applies to a lot of growing the industry with us. So, for example, to improve our delivery success rate, we were developing new technology, but then we realized that our logistic partners could not sort of
keep up with
it, right? We were sort of ahead of the industry curve. Then it involved a lot of investment into not only educating them, but also enabling our partners with the right kind of technology and sort of growing the industry with us. So, I mean, of course, there are a lot of advantages associated to it, but the lack of competitive landscape does make the whole environment very challenging in terms of educating the industry. Then lastly, I would say in terms of, I would also bring upon the talent pool. So, when there's a competitive landscape, so obviously every company has a product function with different processes, with different ideas, with different way of doing things, what's working, what's not working. And also over the course of time, there's an accumulation of experience. What that means is that you can afford to have a very experienced product team. You can have a lot of ideas, diverse ideas on the table, and a really good environment, right?
Yeah.
What this means for us is that because obviously, as you know, that there's no formal education for this particular function, so a lot of it has to do with experience. What that means is that we often bring on very fresh talent. So our hiring has to basically be more focused on enthusiasm and the initiative. And we bring on really creative people, really hardworking people, and then sort of groom them. Like I myself am a prime example. I was taken into this program with little experience of product management and a lot of mentorship from our senior management who themselves are of course very experienced product leaders. A lot of mentorship over the course of time and a lot of investment of their personal time and the company's time into people like me has made sure that we have a we have a good talent pool available now to us, and this is sort of an ongoing exercise that we keep investing in. So while I think it's very admirable of the organization to
mentor,
keep the talent very localized. So obviously it can be very completely offsite based and then have a bunch of experience, but then the challenge there we would face is that nobody would understand the local market, right? So there has been one of the strategies that we have always adopted for is hire talent local because of understanding the behavior preferences and really go into the hearts and minds of our customers, the end people that we're trying to serve. But the challenge that brings about is a lot of investment that needs to go in terms of mentoring, in terms of grooming these people. So, and yes, how we have gone about is the within product, of course, a lot of time investment from the senior management. Then we have this concept of master classes where there are everyone who knows about one topic in particular, like how to think about a solution detail, or even small things like how to learn a new language, a new software language. So we'll just sit and train each other. So there's a lot of, then each project has a lot of interactive discussions where we discuss very openly how to improve, so that each person really knows how they can do better, and despite the lack of experience, each time they grew better. There's a lot of autonomy that's also placed. So that brings a lot of mistakes at the expense of the organization, but that really fastens each person's growth. So the talent, that's how we've been able to overcome that. So yeah, overall, I think these are everything goes back to the competitive landscape. But I think we have done, we have had some good strategies in place. We've taken the right steps to overcome these, and which is indicative by how we keep getting better. So I think it's just about having a constant insight into how to do better and just keep on acting there.
Yeah, so you spoke about two key challenges over here. One, that there is a lack of case studies, and the second one, that there is no specialized education for product managers in our markets, at least. So are there better case studies specific to product management in other markets? Or this is the case overall in this industry?
No, I mean, this is a very much a localized problem, because I mean, it all comes down to how many, what kind of competitive landscape you have, right? For example, in China, where 36% of the retail market is based on e-commerce, you have not one, but you have hundreds of companies doing it, right? So, and each company tries out a different idea. Successful companies have a certain pattern of doing things, so they are automatically, if I'm to start something, I can look at so many examples in front of me, what worked, what didn't work. Southeast Asia is a very booming market. In our markets, we are a huge majority, a significant majority of our complete retail trade is still offline, which means, and there are very few e-commerce companies, and none at the scale at which we operate at. So that means that there's no one to look around for. So yeah, that's what I was basically referring to.
And when you talk about specialized education, in the international market, are there any specialized courses for product management, or throughout the world, this is just a function that you learn with experience?
So throughout the world, I think it's just about, because product management is complex in the sense that it requires, why people say it's accumulated with experiences, because it involves a lot of strategic element, right? This concept of product solution, problem to solution mindset, a very good strategic insight. So when strategy experience is built over time, right? When you understand how to really gain a lot of valuable information, structure it, and then sort of break it down in a very clean strategy. Then there's a lot of, you have to be very good with numerical analysis, and again there's again something that you build over time, how to sort of gain more and more valuable information, how to read things, how to understand things better. then there's obviously a lot of element of technical knowledge required. Okay, if I have this problem, how do I solve it from a technical? And over time, as you keep learning more and more about the technical world and how it works, you just keep getting better at the quality of the solution and how fast you're able to think of them. So overall, this has globally has a problem. Of course, there are different. Now there are some startups that are coming about doing product management. There are a lot of communities that are opening up where senior product managers from a lot of companies will sit down and sort of have discussions which young aspiring product managers can learn from. So I think.
I think since we are having this chat for our LinkedIn audience, there are definitely a lot of people over here today who would generally want to know what is the hiring or recruitment process for a product manager at Daraz. What does the recruitment process look like? Like, what is the criteria? How do we select the best fit for the team?
So I think so we have sort of. Two sort of main criteria that we're looking for. One is from a competence perspective, and the second is from a culture perspective. The second one, of course, takes priority because like we fundamentally believe that competence is something that can be nurtured, that can be developed over time, but culture fit is something that yes, can be done probably, but takes a very big takes a lot of time and also takes a big toll on the overall environment that you're setting up. So culture fit, and the way that we navigate through these things are from a culture fit perspective. We judge them through a lot of interview based, and sort of our guiding principle became the company values. So there's an active effort that goes into any hiring manager to look at the values, to see to look at the values on the wall, but also how we have built the culture, which is very similar to, of course, what's on the wall. But so there's an active effort that goes into making sure that the person will fit into the culture, does embody the Daraz values, is the kind of person that that would be a good investment to make in. Right, because it affects everything, right? It affects the morale. It affects if that person was to become a manager, then if they don't embody, then everything downstream becomes a problem. So this is one of the most important things. From a competence perspective, we judge via, of course, case studies. We judge via interviews where we try to see how you approach problems, how you solve. So your problem solution is something that's probably the most important. So given different sets of problem, different sets of data, how do you extract problems? How do you perceive the problem? What kind of factors do you consider? How do you consider your different stakeholders, whether you've recognized them all, and how much attention you've paid to the different facets within a stakeholder's mind? And then how did you reach the final conclusion? So of course, the final solution is something that we don't really pay a lot of attention to. So I think the approach is what we care about, as would be the case with any other organization, because as I said, it's a simulation, right? We're just trying to put you in a simulation and see how you react, because one of the things that I mentioned is very critical to how we grow is autonomy and ownership, right? So you will be expected at Daraz to just be thrown into the deep end and see how you react. So if in a simulation environment we feel that you may not be up to it, then it obviously will be a challenge in a real situation. So that becomes very important to us.
So for all those who are wondering how do we hire in the product team at Daraz, this was your answer, and hopefully in the future as well. Our team is always growing. Our team is always growing. So
it has grown 7 times, I think, in the last 3 years.
So if
not 7 times the count of times, it's 7x.
So if you're looking for opportunities in the product team, always keep a lookout for opportunities on our LinkedIn. But now moving on to, I would say, the main part of the conversation. Can you share with us what are the different kinds of innovations that we've brought into Daraz pertaining to your domain, of course, and anything else as well that you feel has been pretty interesting and has worked out really well for us?
So I think most of the things. So we have this. Sort of slogan within the product function where we say, we bring ideas to life, right? And the thought process behind it is that everything we do is an innovation. So I think, especially as I mentioned, one of the challenges in the lack of competitive landscape, most of the things that we end up doing are something that's new in the market, never been done before. Uh, and so what that some of the things that come to mind, and here please keep in mind the recency element, what we have just sort of been working on.
Yeah.
I think two of the things, so recently we've been focusing a lot more on our user retention, our customer retention, and we were trying to think of ways, okay, how do we offer more to the end user, more than just a shopping platform, and also how do we give our sellers more control over what they're able to, sort of how they're able to perform on the platform, right? So very recently launched in all of our markets, we have the product Daraz Live, which is a sort of state-of-the-art live stream platform where we are able to, where we are trying to give our users more than just shopping, a site where they can talk about, where they can see a lot of, fulfill a lot of the entertainment needs. We're also trying to sort of find that intersection between entertainment and shopping, because ultimately there's going to be a lot of conversation around products such as, you know, unboxing or reviews or etc. But via in an entertainment form. So we're also trying to find the ideal intersection where these two sort of merge together and sort of, you know, bring about a whole revolution in the field of shoppertainment. Along the same lines, of course, we're not doing that right now, but in our future vision, we also plan to give this as a platform for our sellers to be able to, you know, better control their sales by, you know, by doing the streaming, attracting new users for themselves, and becoming more and more successful.
So for live stream, what are the main business KPIs, and how would you measure success of this feature?
So I think top of the line, so there are several sort of intermediary things that we're looking at, but top of the line, what we're looking to improve is our stickiness, app stickiness, which is a very, so as I mentioned, we're
Can you
focusing.
explain what stickiness is for a layman? I mean, generally, what do you mean by stickiness?
So it's our total user base, which is our monthly active users, and our today's user base, which is our daily active user. It's a ratio of DAU over MAU, which we, so this is a good benchmark of, this is a benchmark of basically user retention, and more importantly, it's a benchmark of how big of a role you play in your user's life, right? So the higher DAU, MAU you have, which means that the same user is opening your app more and more within a given month, right? So ideally, I would want the user to open my app 5 times, 10 times a day, which means that which indicates to me that I'm playing a very active role in their life. And I'm able to influence their lives in a more positive manner. If they're opening my app once a month, then it means, okay, likely I'm not as relevant, or I'm not fulfilling a beat. So ultimately, like, beyond all this conversation, right? Ultimately, we are trying to play a positive role in our users' life. And stickiness helps navigate how successful we have been in that. And these growth engines such as live streaming help us get better and get us become more relevant to the user.
So for live stream, do you feel our markets, not just Pakistan but Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Myanmar, are ready to accept a feature that is so advanced? Do you think the customers can easily navigate through the stream, or will the sellers and brands be able to utilize this to the optimum level?
So I think so. Yeah, this is a conversation that I often have with a lot of people, and I think at the ground reality, I think there's just a huge level of underestimation that we make to our audiences, right? I mean, these are the same people who are using all online platforms. They are available on social media. They are watching a lot of entertainment via TikTok or YouTube. They are doing searches on Google. So, I mean, there really is no evidence to suggest, okay, why they would not be able to do that. And of course, if what you said about if they're not able to navigate the stream, then obviously that means that we have failed in designing a product that's easy to use. So I wouldn't put it as they're not able to understand. It's something, we made something complicated. So the burden is on us to make things simple for people to understand. Nobody, like even the most even the most tech savvy person struggles with complicated products, and that's not really on the end user. Moving towards for a readiness element, as I mentioned, right? These are like I don't see a reason what they would not be ready for. They're watching videos on YouTube. They're shopping on Daraz. Numbers indicate that each year we're just growing and growing and growing. Live stream is just an intersection of the two, right? and ultimately the quality will be judged by, okay, how good our product has been, which time will tell. We just launched it, and how great we are at producing content, right? Ultimately, it will come down to that. We're making a lot of investments into this to make sure that our content is something that users really like to watch. But yeah, I think there's no reason why we should expect it not to be a true game changer in terms in this finding this intersection of shopping and entertainment.
So, I mean, in-app shoppable live stream is already a $1 billion industry in China. And now that we've launched it over here in Pakistan, do you think if we're the first ones in our markets, and do you think if other marketplaces or more popular platforms like Facebook or Instagram, who are also working on similar solutions, launch in-app shoppable live streams, will they be a very big competitor to Daraz?
So, I mean, I honestly never feel that competitors is a bad thing, right? Remember the biggest challenge that I talked about, competitive landscape, right? So the more people in the industry are doing this, people are more familiar with it. So seller will adopt it better. They will do more streaming. Users will adopt it better. Your content creators, there will be a huge demand for these content creators. People will start becoming very creative. More and more people will come into this industry. There will be an abundance of content. There will be, we will know, like from a product manager's perspective, even for I can learn from Facebook what they're doing better. They can probably learn from us. So generally, competition makes everything just grow faster.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
agreed. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have.
It is actually quite encouraging, and I hope that this happens, that we have more and more of these players stepping into this particular industry. And it can only mean better. So, as I said, right, ultimately it's about benefiting the user. So, if a user can have 5 options to watch videos and shop instead of 1, that's great, right? For the end user, their lives have been positively impacted. And if we're the first ones to do it and drive this whole innovation where everyone else does it, then I would take some credit for benefiting the end user's life and creating an impact. And I think that's very positive what we've done.
Yeah. I think going back to the basics of live stream, can you... so Instagram and Facebook have been doing live streams since forever. How is in-app shoppable live stream different from just a live stream? I think this is just the basic that we should clear out.
So as I was mentioning, this is not, so we've not suddenly become a streaming platform or an entertainment platform, right? We're not Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. But we are also not just a shopping platform anymore, right? So this particular product is to find an intersection between the two, and that's where the real key sort of becomes. The main difference is, of course, if you're watching something on, like from a user, like let me just go away from all the technicalities. From a normal user perspective, right? I am watching a stream or a video on any of the platforms. I like what they're using, what they're talking about, but I don't know, a lot of them, if they're advertising for that product, then they obviously will be very keen on mentioning about 100 times in the stream. But if they're not, then they probably will not talk about it. There's a challenge in finding what the product is. Then secondly, there is a supplier challenge where we don't know where is that available, which marketplace or which offline store, or who do I approach to buy this from? And then what pricing, how do I get it delivered? All of these aspects create this huge challenge in terms of what I'm watching and liking and what I'm actually able to possess. What this intersection allows you to do is help you cross this bridge or remove this conflict, where whatever you are watching, so you're watching a makeup tutorial and the streamer is viewing some product and you like what you see, you like the effect on them and you would like to possess these items, then you don't have to worry about all of these things. You can directly see what products there are. You can see they're available on Daraz. You can see who to store from. You can see these ratings, reviews. If you want to order, you can get the various delivery options and get it delivered to your home. So, and that just makes this, as I mentioned, this whole conflict to disappear. And that's what we're trying to achieve over here.
Just one last question on the topic of live stream. You must have done a lot of research based on our parent company and our sister company, Lazada, who already have this feature. How has the impact for them been? Was it a success? How have they, I mean, how has their market received this?
So, I mean, it's a bit difficult to compare because it's not
Yeah,
an
of
apples to
course.
apples comparison,
Of
right?
course.
Internet penetration,
Yeah.
literacy level, adoption of new technology
Definitely, yeah.
is very different in how these markets work. Very people are very different. So I would not use this some sort of as a benchmark to say
Yeah.
they were able to do this and we should be able to do the same. What we were the research that went in was to decide whether this is a direction that we should invest in.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, right, shoppertainment industry is over $1 billion industry
Yeah.
in China. Last year alone, especially in the COVID era, where shoppers and sellers are not able to interact in the same level that's possible. Livestream again provides an insight into being able to, from their homes, they can see the products, the seller can touch different facets of it and you just sort of show them. And that's something that we're also actively seeing on Facebook platforms where a lot of small SME industries have started to do this. So we know that a lot of people are already adopting to it based on what we were able to see on Facebook, what's happening, or what Instagram we were able to see. We know there's a lot of adoption from a user perspective because how people were interacting with them, people were purchasing from them despite all the gap, right? People were commenting, yeah, I want this. They were bidding for it in the comments. So there was a lot of, that's what we saw. We saw in the other
demand
markets, we saw
it.
there was demand from both the people selling it and people buying it, right? And COVID just enhanced it. And then we saw the COVID effect in other markets where we saw that there was a huge uptick in people purchasing from the streaming products. So overall, so we looked at we saw that there was a direction to invest in. We saw that our markets were ready for it, and along with all the other research, went in to make this decision that yes, we're going to invest in this.
So is it fair to say that COVID was a deciding factor to launch this feature, or we would have done it regardless, even if COVID weren't there?
It's obviously a bit difficult to answer right now because it's hindsight is a beautiful thing, right? I mean, today in a position, I don't know when we would have actually launched it if COVID had not there, if the whole world had not been a different world now. But I can definitely say that yes, the pandemic did sort of fasten the timeline on this, right? We had it in our minds, we wanted to do this, but COVID sort of enhanced it. We were seeing, because we saw the major uptick in other markets, we also saw this active need of shoppers and sellers to interact with each other. And we saw more and from a safety point, people have to stay at home more days. And so all of these things
just came together.
Attributed from the pandemic, sort of attributed to us increasing, fastening the timeline on this. But I think we would probably have done it regardless. So it's very difficult to, but one of the, again, considering the recency element, there's also the coins that we have launched, which is a reward-based program focusing on incremental engagement. I think we're one of the first ones, or one of the few ones to do it across the world, where we are rewarding people not on incremental purchasing, which is sort of the goal of almost every loyalty program out there, but on incremental engagement, where we're not putting barriers behind a transactional wall or making people pay before they're able to earn loyalty coin, just by coming on the platform, doing. So this is more along the lines of gamifying the shopping experience and getting rewards for it.
So you're saying that there is a difference between a reward program and a loyalty program?
So reward program, I mean, I would say reward is a higher pillar and loyalty is one part of loyalty program. There can be other types of reward programs as well. So reward is just, as you said, right? You do something, you gain against it. Loyalty programs give you rewards for more transactions, frequent transactions. But how the Daraz coins is set up, yes, loyalty is part of it, right? So you get coins on transaction as well. You get more coins the more frequently you purchase. But at the same time, you also get rewards for just visiting the app and doing this. So there's also a gamification experience of it, where we're trying to make the shopping journey a bit more fun by giving simple challenges, go visit this store, do this action, do this action, and by doing these things, or just simply the simplest of things is do a daily check-in on the app.
So basically, you simply earn coins just to visit the app.
Yes,
Wow.
that's the whole idea.
That's pretty interesting, and I think it's not that easy to gain reward points or coins or anything of that sorts with other platforms.
So,
it requires a little bit of, I mean, there is some kind of purchase involved.
So it's not
for
difficult
others.
I don't think it's very difficult from a technical standpoint. I think
Yeah.
it's just a strategic direction that we wanted to take.
Yeah.
So more than, yes, loyalty was something that we wanted to work towards. We wanted to reward our loyal purchasers, our loyal users, and to make more and more people fall into that cohort of users. But there was active element going in our minds was also concerning, sort of, as we mentioned, right, revolutionizing the shopping experience. So we mentioned through streaming how it's a completely different way of shopping. Similarly, of a shopping app experience, we wanted to completely change it by introducing the gamification elements of it, right? Make shopping a little bit more fun for the user, and play, as we said, a bigger role in their lives, which was what we mentioned at the start of the conversation. Was we really want to be place start. So yeah.
And the kind of business impact we are expecting from coins is also stickiness.
It's stickiness, it's loyalty, loyalty cohort should get bigger and bigger. Our retention should increase from a customer perspective. So yeah, that's what we're targeting to grow.
Great. I think these were two very, very interesting features that we just touched upon. And I really hope that our audience got to learn a lot from this conversation that we just had. And it was a very detailed discussion, and I hope our viewers enjoyed it just as much as we did.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great time.
Yeah, and I think we've already gone way beyond time, and we've really deep dived into a lot of things that we wanted to talk about today. And Sattar, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great
If
honor.
there's anything that you would want to add to this conversation?
No, I think it's just it was just a very interesting forum, and I hope we continue doing this. And yeah, if any of you have any questions, etc., you can reach out on LinkedIn or via comments. I'll be monitoring those. So if there's any specific question from anything that I said that you want to learn about better, then all ears.
Yeah. You can definitely look him up on LinkedIn as well, reach out to him, or you can always reach out to us as well, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you for being a lovely audience as always. Hopefully, we will see you soon with another interesting episode, another guest, and another insightful topic for you very soon. Once again, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.